Hey guys, Justin at Vintage 55 Restorations here. Another episode of Vintage 55 Garage. This one is the Harley Davidson Wild Hog A edition because this is my first Harley I've ever had. And sorry, I'm not making fun of all you Harley guys because I'm a Harley guy now, but I've never had a Harley before. I've had lots of Hondas, lots of other bikes. There's a couple other videos up on our feed of other bikes I've had. But I've always been too poor to have a Harley, especially when I'm going to chop it up. So I got this in a trade for a car bench that I made and some other stuff, and it turned out awesome. I got it. It was kind of half done, and I did the works to it and made it mine, and I love it now. So forgive me if I get a little bit wrong. Like I said, I haven't been around Harleys, really. I've always had Japanese bikes. So anyway, it's a 2002. Doesn't look like a 2002. And that's the point, because I've always wanted an old WLA or something. And dear Lord, I'll never be able to afford that. But kind of make it look as much as possible. So 2002 Softail and the FXT, FXST. But basically that stands for Factory Experimental, which is what the Softail was when Harley came out with it. And it was just the idea of, I've had hardtail bikes, and this triangle on a hardtail bike is welded on, stationary, doesn't move, terrible suspension, but looks super cool. So the Softail, the Factory Experimental, was Harley's attempt to bridge that, basically. So this all in here is actually a swinging shock. So this whole thing goes, see if I make my fat butt, well, you get the point. That goes up and down, this whole thing though. And so it looks cool, but it still gives you, nice suspension. So the hardtail relied on only your spring seats, which seat springs, which are these, which 2002 Harley did not have those. I had put this seat and springs on, and there's a cover plate that I made that goes on there, but I kept this off to show you guys. And I mean, that's okay. Like I said, I've had hardtails, and it's not the worst thing in the world, but long distances, you want a little something more than the 3-inch seat spring. And so all that suspension is in the rear. Front on this one is a Springer. The stock out the door 2002 Harley front suspension is shocks internal of the forks, but Springer looks awesome and old. The Springer was discontinued in 1948, back with those old Harleys I was talking about, but it was brought back in 88 for the Softail specifically. It was kind of the first like retro styling bike, which they were basically not far from still making them, but they realized that all the guys were doing stuff to their old bikes and not buying new ones in the 80s. And so they brought Softail back, and then they got the custom market back, basically. So they brought the Springers back, they brought a hardtail look back, they brought a lot of stuff that went with that, accessory-wise and all that. And the, kind of the rest is history. But so the 2002 Harley had the twin cam V-twin introduced in 2000, 96 bored to 103. It's fast. It's a big bike. Big, heavy bike. I wasn't used to that on this. I've always had basically the sporty equivalent of, bikes. And with these giant wide bars that I put on here, and the weight of this thing, and being so low, it's not a sporty, totally different thing. But it's so fun getting this thing out on the highway. But big motor. So the original bike looked nothing like this. Go look up a 2002 Harley Softail, and you'll see how much has been done to this. Not a lot of hard stuff, but everything's been touched. So first thing, like I said, those big bars and the Springer fork. I rigged up this light bar in the front for these old Unity lights that somebody was using as a shop light. They had them wired in. This is an old, I believe, Korea era U.S. Navy wool blanket that I put in a bedroll on there. This is a reproduction front fender that I had to rig up a special mount system for. This trim is actually off a 54 Chrysler me and Jesse found in a junkyard that seemed to look awesome on it, so we put that on. I put this black pinstripe down, continued through the whole bike over a 40s Harley black underclear. Put just some cheapo crash bars on it, which that's in case it gets away from me at a light, which I'll explain in a minute. This is a horn off a 53 Chrysler that sounds just awesome, so I wanted to put it on there. All the pegs and all the rubber I switched out for just boring rubber. The decals are off old, that's the old Harley Speedball logo off the knuckleheads. This shifter is an old pin, actually, an old sales pin, I think, and I put it into this shift knob, which leads me to probably the biggest mod on this, functionality-wise, is that it's tank shift. So it was jockey shift when I got it already. Was not from the factory. But what that means is jockey shift suicide clutch. Your shifter's back here to change gears. It's back here on behind your leg, which was actually okay once I got used to it. But the hard part of that is the clutch, the corresponding clutch. If you're using your hand to shift down here, you can't use a clutch on the grip. So if you move your hand back here, you move your clutch to your foot. So this pedal right here is actually my clutch. And I've since moved from a jockey shift to a tank shift. This is what they had back in the 40s. And so to shift gears when I'm riding, I have to hit the clutch on the floor and shift up here. One hand off the bars, obviously. That sounds scary, but you shouldn't be shifting in turns or fast stops or acceleration anyway. So that's actually okay. What the hard part is that suicide clutch, which means unless you're in neutral before you stop, you cannot put your left foot down. If you put your left foot down, that means you're engaging your clutch and your bike goes flying away from you. That's why they call it a suicide clutch. And there's no safety on that. So basically, you got to either get in neutral before you get to the light, or when you get to the light, you keep your foot on that clutch and you only lean to the right and you cannot lean to the left, period. That's taking some getting used to. But it looks really cool though, doesn't it? And let's see, I got that Springer seat like I mentioned. And the bag I put on here, the luggage rack I put on here. This is a tail light. This is a reproduction fender. This is a tail light off an old 1951 camper, but I thought it looked really awesome on that. So I went ahead and put that on there. And just lots of little guys, lots of little things. And I think it turned out pretty awesome. All I got left to do is put that seat back together when I get a battery. I got a lithium battery coming on order, and I made some terminals because it's really hard to get underneath there to the seat. So I made some terminal lines that come out that I could put a trickle charger on without taking anything off or apart. But it came out awesome. I love riding it. Got a lot more power than anything else I've ever had. So, hey, see you guys later.